My keycard still worked when I swiped in that Tuesday morning. Last time it would, though I didn't know that yet. I was juggling a lukewarm cup of coffee and a stack of production reports when I noticed something was off. The control system dashboard I'd been monitoring for 8 years was throwing error codes I'd never seen before. Our adaptive production control system, the one that just landed us on the radar of that $275 million acquisition, was hiccuping on the main assembly line. Name's Tom Wagner, by the way. 55 years old, been doing manufacturing engineering since Reagan was in office. Started on the factory floor at 23. Worked my way up through every department from quality control to process optimization. I've seen 3 recessions, 2 plant closures, and more corporate restructuring than I care to count. And if I hadn't caught those errors that morning, Preston Caldwell would have blamed legacy infrastructure compatibility issues in tomorrow's meeting like he always does, when he doesn't understand the actual engineering. I was 4 tabs deep into diagnostic logs, cross-referencing sensor data with the adaptive response algorithms when my phone buzzed. Text from Preston. Thanks for all the hard work during due diligence. Coffee's on me today. Grabbed you something from that fancy place downtown. There was a $6 latte sitting on my desk with a sticky note. Keep doing what you do best. No need to join the buyer call today. Confidential executive stuff. Thanks again. The handwriting was too neat. His assistant wrote it. That's when I knew something was wrong. See, the system they were about to sell as their revolutionary efficiency platform wasn't theirs. It was mine. Built it back when I was consulting out of my garage after getting laid off from Midwest Steel in 2016. Spent nights and weekends for 2 solid years developing the adaptive algorithms, while my wife Linda watched me fill notebook after notebook with PID loop calculations and statistical process control equations. Back when I still believed in protecting my work, I filed everything under my consulting LLC, Wagner Industrial Solutions. The provisional patents, the trademark applications, the whole 9 yards. Something told me not to dissolve that LLC when Pinnacle Manufacturing hired me full-time 4 years ago. Shoved those incorporation papers in my filing cabinet and forgot about them until this acquisition talk started heating up. Inside the plant, nobody cared how the system actually worked. Plant managers just loved seeing those monthly reports. 23% reduction in material waste, 18% improvement in throughput efficiency, $12 million in documented annual savings. The floor supervisors respected me because I'd worked their jobs. I knew what a pain in the neck it was to manually adjust conveyor speeds every time humidity changed the cardboard stiffness, or recalibrate cutting tolerances when tool wear started affecting precision. Legal barely knew I existed. Sales couldn't explain the difference between my adaptive control algorithms and a programmable thermostat. I wasn't on the leadership page of the company website. Didn't get invited to those steak dinners with TechFlow Industries where Preston and the other executives wore matching polo shirts and talked about synergistic operational paradigms or whatever buzzword was trending that quarter. But every line of code in that control system had my fingerprints on it. Every PLC ladder logic routine, every HMI interface, every predictive maintenance algorithm. I knew which sensors drifted in humid weather, which motors needed bearing replacement every 14 months, which production line configurations would cause bottlenecks if you push throughput above 87% capacity. I wasn't bitter about being left out of the executive dog and pony shows. You don't survive 32 years in manufacturing without learning to keep your head down and let your work speak for itself, especially when you started as the guy who swept the floors and worked your way up by actually understanding how things work instead of just managing the people who understand how things work. They needed me too much to mess with me, until they didn't. Once TechFlow started sniffing around seriously, the corporate consultants came out of the woodwork like termites after rain. Preston suddenly became the visionary architect behind our automation platform. My access to certain systems started getting reorganized for security purposes during the transition period. Meetings I used to lead about system optimization got moved to times I wasn't available, usually when I was down on the floor actually fixing problems. Even my project tickets started getting reassigned to external consultants who charged $300 an hour to ask me questions about documentation I'd written myself. At first, I figured it was just the usual chaos before a big deal, We'd all get our bonuses. I'd take Linda on that Alaskan cruise she'd been wanting since her retirement from the school district. Maybe finally replace my 15-year-old pickup truck with something that didn't require a prayer and a curse word to start every morning. But then Carlos Rivera, one of the younger engineers I'd been mentoring, asked me about something odd. Carlos was sharp, reminded me of myself at his age, back when I thought hard work and good ideas were all you needed to get ahead. "Hey Tom, I was reviewing the system documentation for TechFlow's technical audit," he said, pulling up his laptop screen. "There's this core module that seems to reference an external package registry. You recognize this namespace?" I looked at the screen. There it was, buried in the dependency manifest. Wagner Industrial Solutions, Adaptive Control Core, EV 2.3.1. The same package name I'd used 8 years ago when I was uploading protected builds during my consulting days, back when I was paranoid about intellectual property theft. Turned out, I wasn't paranoid enough. That night, I went home and dug through the fireproof box in my basement. Had to move aside Linda's grandmother's jewelry and our insurance papers to get to the folder I was looking for. Found the articles of incorporation, my business license from 2016, and a thick folder full of provisional patent drafts that had seemed like overkill at the time. Everything was still there, my signature, my work, and a clause I'd written about proprietary software retention rights that seemed paranoid back then, but now felt like a life preserver on a sinking ship. The language was basic but solid. Wagner Industrial Solutions. LLC retains exclusive ownership and licensing rights to all control system algorithms, predictive maintenance routines, and adaptive response protocols developed under this entity, regardless of subsequent employment arrangements. I'd written that clause at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, sitting in my garage with a space heater and a pot of coffee, after reading horror stories on engineering forums about guys who'd built something valuable, only to watch their employers claim ownership and cut them out of the profits. I opened a beer, a real beer, not the light stuff Linda keeps trying to get me to drink, and logged into Ohio's Secretary of State website. Wagner Industrial Solutions, LLC was still listed as active in their database. I'd been paying the renewal fees out of habit, same way I paid my truck insurance and property taxes. $150 every 2 years, automatic debit from my checking account. Just like that, Wagner Industrial Solutions was back in business. The next few days, I watched the corporate machinery gear up for the big announcement. TechFlow's technical team was crawling all over our facility, taking measurements, reviewing documentation, asking questions that proved they actually understood manufacturing, unlike some of our own executives. One of their senior engineers, a woman about my age who'd clearly spent time on factory floors, pulled me aside during a plant tour. "This adaptive control system is impressive work," she said, looking at real-time efficiency data on her tablet. "The statistical process control integration is particularly sophisticated. Who designed the core algorithms?" Before I could answer, Preston materialized like a bad rash. "That's proprietary methodology developed by our engineering team," he said with that practiced smile. "Trade secrets, you understand." She nodded politely, but I caught her eye and saw the look I recognized from 30 years of working with competent people who had to deal with incompetent managers. She knew Preston was full of it. They announced the acquisition the worst way possible. All hands meeting in the main conference room with day-old donuts from the grocery store and a projector that wouldn't connect to Preston's MacBook. He stood there jabbing at cables like they'd personally insulted his mother, while 180 employees sat wondering if their jobs were about to disappear. When he finally got his slideshow working, Preston launched into his. Prepared remarks like, he was running for governor. "We're entering an exciting new chapter in Pinnacle's evolution. TechFlow Industries recognizes the strategic value of our innovative automation platform and has agreed to acquire our company for $275 million. Polite applause scattered through the room, a few relieved sighs from people who'd been worried about layoffs. One of the older machinists near the back muttering, "Hope they don't screw up our health insurance." But the real kicker came when Preston started talking about the revolutionary efficiency platform that represents years of collaborative innovation by our world-class engineering team. My platform. The thing I'd built alone in my garage while eating microwave dinners and trying to figure out how to make the mortgage payment after Midwest Steel decided they didn't need senior engineers anymore. Preston stood there talking, like he'd personally coded every algorithm, calibrated every sensor, debugged every control loop. He even had the PowerPoint slide ready. Adaptive Production Control System, Pinnacle's competitive advantage. With a chart showing the $12 million in annual savings like it was his personal achievement. This acquisition validates what we've built together as a unified team, he concluded, adjusting his tie like he was accepting an engineering award. Together. Right, I was the team. Let's keep this confidential until the formal closing, he added, scanning the room with what he probably thought was executive gravitas. Don't reach out to anyone at TechFlow directly. And if you're not part of the core transition team, please stick to your regular operational duties. His eyes landed on me when he said it. Not subtle, but then again, Preston had never been accused of subtlety. After the meeting, everyone scattered to gossip by the coffee machine and speculate about retention bonuses. I didn't follow, went back to my workstation, opened that bottom file drawer that hadn't seen daylight in 4 years, and pulled out the manila folder marked Wiz Patent Applications. Confidential. Inside was a printed provisional patent application, 8 years old, describing the adaptive logic algorithms in the kind of painful technical detail that only another controls engineer could appreciate. Mathematical proofs for the statistical process, control integration. Flowcharts showing the decision trees for predictive maintenance protocols. Even hand-drawn diagrams of the human-machine interface layouts. The same algorithms Preston was about to sell like they were his brilliant innovation. I sat there reading my own work, remembering the late nights in my garage, the dozens of failed approaches, the breakthrough moment when I finally figured out how to make the system adapt to changing production conditions without human intervention. None of that showed up in Preston's presentation. He was selling the results without understanding the process. The provisional patent language was straightforward. If any derivative version of the described control system is deployed commercially without explicit licensing agreement from Wagner Industrial Solutions, LLC, the patent holder retains the right to pursue enforcement through legal and federal channels. Back then, filing those papers felt like insurance I'd never need. Now they felt like ammunition. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Legal, patents, Jordan Walsh. Hadn't talked to Jordan since 2018, but some friendships don't need regular maintenance. Time to make a call. Jordan Walsh answered on the second ring, sounding exactly like he had 6 years ago, when he'd helped me file the original patents. Tom Wagner, he said, and I could hear him leaning back in his chair. Haven't heard from you since that consulting gig wrapped up. How's the corporate world treating you? They're selling my system, Jordan. Long pause, then a low whistle. The adaptive manufacturing control platform? That one. $275 million deal with TechFlow Industries. My boss is presenting it like he invented the whole thing himself. Tell me you kept the paperwork, every page, signed, notarized, sitting in my filing cabinet like a time bomb. I could hear him typing, probably pulling up my old files. This could get very interesting, Tom. You never transferred the IP to Pinnacle when they hired you? Nope. They brought me on as a senior engineer, not a contractor. Standard employee agreement, NDA, non-compete clause. Nobody ever asked about prior work or existing intellectual property. Just assumed everything I knew belonged to them automatically. Classic mistake, Jordan muttered. Happens more than you'd think. Companies get sloppy when they're hiring experienced people. They figure 32 years in manufacturing means you're just a company man who follows orders. Well, they figured wrong. Jordan chuckled. Indeed they did. You maintain the LLC registration? Active status, current on all fees. Wagner Industrial Solutions is alive and well. Then they're about to learn something about intellectual property law that they should have learned before they started shopping your work around. What do you want to do about it? I looked around the plant floor through my office window. Second shift was coming on, guys I'd worked with for years. Good people who deserved job security, but didn't deserve to get rich off my work while I got nothing but a paycheck and a pink slip when the deal closed. I want what's mine, Jordan, credit and compensation. I don't want to kill the deal, but I want them to acknowledge who actually built what they're selling. Fair enough, I'll need to review all the documentation, but if it's as solid as you say, we've got leverage. How close are they to signing? TechFlow's doing their final due diligence now. Preston thinks we'll close within 2 weeks. Perfect timing. Nothing motivates negotiation like a deadline. I'll draft a licensing demand letter. Professional, polite, absolutely bulletproof. You still at the same address? Same house, same workshop in the garage where I built the damn thing. I'll be in touch tomorrow. The next morning, I discovered just how quickly things could change in corporate America. I was running diagnostics on line 3. One of the packaging machines was running 0.3% slower than optimal, probably a bearing going bad in the feed mechanism. When I tried to access the technical documentation database for the TechFlow integration project, access denied. Contact system administrator. No warning, no explanation. Just locked out of the project I'd been leading for 8 months. I tried the shared drive where we kept the system architecture files. Same message. The production control server where all my custom code was stored, access denied. Even my login to the quality management system had been revoked. Carlos appeared at my elbow like he'd been waiting for this moment. Tom, they locked you out of everything about an hour ago. Preston said it was security protocol during sensitive negotiations. Security protocol my foot, I said. What else did he say? Carlos looked around nervously, then lowered his voice. He told the integration team that you're not part of the core technical transfer process, and that all questions about the adaptive control system should go through him directly, through Preston, the man who still called programmable logic controllers computer things, and thought TCP/IP was a type of antiseptic. There's something else? Carlos continued. I was reviewing the system documentation they were giving to TechFlow, and somebody's been editing the version control history. All the original commit logs, the development timestamps, even the author attribution. It's all been scrubbed clean. They were trying to erase the digital breadcrumbs that led back to me. Too bad they didn't understand that my original package dependencies were hard-coded throughout the entire system. Every module, every library, every configuration file still pointed back to Wagner Industrial Solutions. What did you tell Preston when he asked you to clean up the history? Told him it would take weeks to refactor everything safely without breaking the integration. He wasn't happy, but he backed off. For now. I nodded. Carlos was smart enough to buy me time without making himself a target. That afternoon, I walked calmly to Preston's corner office. His door was open, and I could hear him on a conference call with someone from TechFlow's legal team. Something about finalizing the technical asset transfer documentation. I didn't knock, just stood in the doorway until he noticed me. Preston covered his phone's microphone and gave me that condescending smile he probably learned in some management seminar. Tom, what can I do for you? You revoked my system access. Yeah, just temporary security measures, nothing personal. These deals get complicated, lots of sensitive information flowing around. Need to know basis, you understand? Above your current role in the transition, above my current role. The system I designed, the algorithms I wrote, the 8 years of optimization work that made this whole deal possible, above my role. I see, I said. And who exactly is handling the technical transfer? I'll be interfacing directly with TechFlow's engineering team. They need strategic oversight, not operational details. Strategic oversight. From a man who thought Gigahertz was a German car manufacturer. I nodded once, very slowly. Well then, I guess you've got everything under control. Absolutely. Thanks for understanding, Tom. Team player attitude, that's what makes these transitions smooth. I turned and walked away without another word. Past the cubicles where people were pretending to work while actually gossiping about the acquisition, past the break room where someone had put up a countdown calendar to Freedom Day, down to the parking lot that smelled like machine oil and ambition. Time to make this interesting. I didn't call Jordan back that day. Instead, I went home, spread everything out on my kitchen table like I was preparing for war, and built my case methodically. The incorporation certificate for Wagner Industrial Solutions, patent drafts with official notary stamps, Git commit logs showing my digital signature on every major code revision, email threads where Pinnacle's former CTO specifically thanked me for independently developing the core adaptive algorithms prior to system integration. That last email was pure gold, dated proof that I'd built the system before Pinnacle even knew what they wanted. Linda found me there at midnight, hunched over technical diagrams and legal documents like an accountant during tax season. You're really going to fight them, aren't you? She said, setting a cup of coffee next to my elbow. 32 years, Linda. 32 years of watching guys like Preston take credit for other people's work while the people who actually build things get pushed aside. I looked up at her. I'm tired of it. She squeezed my shoulder. Then fight smart, not angry. The next morning, I called Jordan. Send the letter. Hannah Foster, Jordan's associate, had crafted something beautiful. Professional letterhead, polite but firm language, and enough technical documentation to make it clear we weren't bluffing. The core message was simple. The Adaptive Production Control System was the intellectual property of Wagner Industrial Solutions, LLC, and any commercial deployment required proper licensing agreements. The letter went out at 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Certified mail to Pinnacle's legal department, with copies to TechFlow's acquisition team and their attorneys. No threats, no ultimatums. Just a formal notification that they were trying to sell something they didn't own. My phone started buzzing 2 hours later. Carlos first. Tom, what did you do? Legal's running around like their hair's on fire. Then my old supervisor from the tool room. Preston's locked himself in his office and won't come out. Says you're trying to sabotage the deal. Finally, a number I didn't recognize. This is Patricia Henley, Pinnacle's CEO. We need to discuss this legal matter immediately. I let them all go to voicemail. Finished dinner with Linda, watched the news, went to bed at my usual time. Let them sweat for a night. The next morning, Preston was waiting by my car in the parking lot. His tie was crooked, his shirt looked like he'd slept in it, and he had that desperate expression people get when their world starts falling apart. Tom, we need to talk. This patent claim, this LLC thing, it's killing the deal. TechFlow's lawyers are asking questions we can't answer. Morning, Preston. Rough night? Don't play games with me. You know exactly what you're doing. He stepped closer, trying to use his height advantage like he was still in middle school. 180 people work here, Tom. Their jobs depend on this acquisition going through. Funny how it was suddenly about everyone else's jobs when his own rear end was in the fire. Deal doesn't have to die, I said, unlocking my truck. TechFlow just needs to license the technology properly, from the person who actually owns it. You don't own anything. You developed that system while working here, using our equipment, on our time. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and set it on my truck's hood. For the record, Preston, when exactly did I develop the Adaptive Production Control System? His mouth opened, then closed, because he didn't know. Had never bothered to learn the timeline, the history, the actual facts about the innovation that was about to make him rich. That's what I thought, I said, pocketing the phone. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some real work to do. The emergency board meeting happened that afternoon. I wasn't invited, but Carlos kept me updated through text messages like a play-by-play announcer. Preston's in there with 3 lawyers and some very unhappy-looking people from TechFlow. CEO looks like she wants to fire someone. Preston's sweating through his jacket. TechFlow's lead attorney just said your documentation is comprehensive and legally sound. Preston looks like he's going to be sick. Board's asking Preston how he missed this. He's blaming legal for not doing proper due diligence. By 6 p.m., it was over. Patricia Henley herself walked out to the parking lot where I was loading my toolbox into my truck. Tom, she said, professional smile barely hiding the stress lines around her eyes. I think we should discuss the situation like adults. Happy to discuss it. With my attorney present, she nodded. Of course. How about Monday morning? We'd like to explore licensing terms that work for everyone involved. Everyone. Finally, they were using the right pronoun. That weekend, Jordan and Hannah drafted our licensing proposal. Fair terms, reasonable royalties, proper attribution, and a consulting contract that would pay me to help TechFlow integrate the system correctly. Nothing punitive, nothing vindictive, just recognition and compensation for my work. Monday morning, I walked into that conference room as the owner of Wagner Industrial Solutions, not as Tom the engineer who got left out of important meetings. Preston was there, looking like he'd aged 5 years over the weekend. Patricia was all business. The TechFlow team was polite but direct. They wanted the technology, and they were willing to pay for it properly. 2 weeks later, we signed the licensing agreement. TechFlow got their acquisition. Pinnacle got their $275 million, and I got something I'd been missing for 32 years. Proper credit for my work, plus a consulting contract worth more than 3 years of my salary. Preston, He's pursuing new opportunities in strategic consulting, which is corporate speak, for got fired for nearly destroying a $250 million deal through sheer incompetence. The best part isn't the money, though the money's nice. It's walking into industry conferences now and having people recognize my name on the patents. It's young engineers asking me to mentor them. It's finally getting credit for building something that actually matters. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just making sure the right person's name is on the work. And sometimes, if you're patient and document everything properly, the system actually works the way it's supposed to. Not bad for an old factory guy who just wanted recognition for his own invention.